I'm ready.
Mpi al halodi geek is yelze rundb. What are your impressions of this chant or further ideas of this seasonal point that's coming up?
Well, it just came to me when water meets fire. Um, isn't this like this is one of the fire festivals, right? Or it's can be called
Well,
like
they all eight of them really are. Like if you've seen my bit on my astrology without idolatry programs, I've looked at different attributes for each of the decans and stuff like this, but the solstices and the equinoxes and the cross quarters are all given the attribute of sun.
okay, gotcha.
And so the next new moon following this would be the Chinese New Year. So it's fitting that the chant includes the word for dragon.
Awesome.
And
Fitting.
it's, as stated before, I bounced this off of Choronzon Volume 3, and I took a little something from everything, and I very specifically made this a left-hand path one. Since it's the start of the warming quarter, it makes sense too, because left-hand path, the current goes out, you could say. So it's a Tantra time. So I keep with that theme in some way, at least that's what I'm working with now. February Sunday the 4th of 2024, 12:07 a.m. Pacific Standard Time is when that is. And as stated before, the verses included from the Quran, we have 673, 1888 to 100, 20, 102, 21, 95, 97, 23, 101, 27, 87, 36, 51, 39, 68, 50, 20, 69, 13, 74, 8, 78, 18. We have Matthew 13, 32, and 23, 27. Mark 6, 30 to 36. Luke 5, 1, and 11, 44. Went over that last time, and we'll go over that this time. Genesis 10, 2, 1 Chronicles 1, 5 and 5, 4, and Ezekiel 38, verses 2, 3, 4, 14, 16, 18, 39, verses 1, 6, 11, and 15. So we're going into something related to Gog and Magog and the horn and finding our place in the end times, all that fun stuff, right? And we have the file thought. I like to I've been making a different colored one each year. It's sort of a swastika if you want to think of it that way, but it's we don't have to think of this in terms of some Christian saint or something. You're going to see it labeled as Bridget Cross or something. It's more like a sun wheel. And
I remember
at the other time of the year, you got the dolly and you got this as the bed, and it's actually very much pre-Christian. I have that triple ring that I organize to have that in that shape there. I got my seasonal stone when purple. I have my Order of Nine Angles category of groups. Tetrahedron, bloodstone, you could call it. It's agate. Usually bloodstones are jasper. I have a ring that's costume jewelry really, but it's done nicer than vending machine jewelry anyways. But the an unkite on silver. I have a talisman about thoughts, so something related to air. And I plan to put the 15 things on the tree.
Okay.
Haven't selected them all this year, but
I was looking for some things that I used last spring. So I'm
and
still
from the board, things are kind of broken up, but it's intended to be closer like that. So the final box and drops, it's a sigillum. So I guess each part is a sigil, so sigillum.
looking.
And so I put that on a stone, which closer to the event. I'm not sure whether it's from the outside.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I'm doing this outside or inside, but I'm going to put this by the I'm going to put this by the ritual tree, if either when it's done or when it's whatever. So I have a spot in between those two. I guess it's two trees growing together. But
I have a apple tree.
I call forth what remains undisturbed as earth and the ages are driven to their deaths. We will bring out what inherently is, rather than by responding to their splendor. The plants that spring forth will be the dark servitors. The five of cube being will, during the eclipse of a star, abundance was not part. Oh, a balance was not part of our nature. So we are given what shields and what tears. More than an art is the defense and our survival. Disconnected parts reach every him and every her. Disintegration comes in the cosmic dawn of soul. Lulling and shocking, witness under the revival. We go out like an extraterrestrial in a quest that to the mundane will always seem foreign. Covered in ash, we enact beyond hallucination. What is a name from a formula or a pseudonym? Devouring, devoured, it watches open. A messenger will be made known to have killed off the old ion, and we are a part. In duty, through static, blood, and flesh, we doth dart or withdraw. Disagreement becomes transformation from what we saw. By one way or another, we become the warriors who gnaw out the kingdom. We stir and scatter. Immortality is not just a flower, but a purple jewel in the cardinal iron crown. And so we have the word for purple there in the left middle row, and the word for flower, so that relates as such.
Okay.
But what are your thoughts regarding that this time?
The stone, I see a lot of change, a lot of sometimes one can be going through like some really serious, just life altering things, and there's a choice to be made. Make it can make a person or break them. Draw strength from all of these things that happen, drawing strength and power from it, not not giving in to defeat. Never. That's what's up.
And so I worked in all the so Genesis 10:2, the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. And so we have the origin myth of Gog and Magog as far as the Bible is concerned. So Magog is the Scythians, the people of the, nowadays we call them Russians. Sometimes it's the whole steppes of Eurasia, but I would say that, this is detailed a bit more. So Gog is more like the Ukraine area, and Magog is the rest of the area. The Gigis, the Mahagigis. Some people say the Cimmerians and give other myths of that. Okay, First Chronicles 1:5. Okay, again, the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshch, and Tiras. So there's no J in that language. So let's see here. In the actual ritual, I would say that the thing itself, Bani, Yapeth, Gomer, Wamgug, Wamdi, Wiyun, Watbul, Wamshuk, Watyurth. And you can't always tell in English what things are going to be. If it's an S, is it or is it sh, or whatever? But that's how.
It's the hardest language, English, or so it is said.
Okay, so First Chronicles 5:4, and in some of the other selection, I've got some of the other things. The descendants of Joel, Shemaiah his son, Gog his son, Shemaiah his son. Oh, is that the word for the blessing? Okay, what's that word? Shemai. Okay, it's the name of a number of Israelites. Okay, because I think there's like a blessing, but it's one of those things. The obedient, probably something like that. And one of the tricky things is the Christians and the Jews organize the Bible differently. So that's okay. 38. Let me see. So Ezekiel 38, verse 2, 3, and 4. Let's just get that in the stretch. Son of man, set your face against Gog in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, prophesy against him. So it seems that Gog is going to be overtaken by Magog, and that definitely seems like that's going to happen. The second that U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is down, and as soon as they let go of supporting Ukraine in its war, it shouldn't have done that in the first place if it wanted to maintain itself. So this is prophesying the absorption, it seems, and say this is what the sovereign. Okay, does it say Lord? Hold on. Okay, it does say that. It does say the Lord, but it does say God as a verb and noun. So replacing all this stuff, how can you mention a name and then you're told not to use the name, use a replacement? That doesn't make sense. The actual thing was to not use things in a secular context. And in a way, you can live without secular context, but say this is what the sovereign God as a verb and noun says. Well, I am against you, Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And okay, and verse 4. Well, from the Khazar kingdom to nowadays, they really haven't set themselves as having the so-called righteous whatever, if you're going to put morals on things. Okay, so verse 4, I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army, your horses, your horsemen fully armed, and a great horde. with large and small shields, all of them brandishing their swords. And every man, woman, and child that they've been able to drag off the streets has been called forward in this war. So really the whole army, even to the point of destruction here. And skipping ahead, I do that a lot of my things is either it's not of the use that I'm looking for, or it's not something I entirely agree with. So I kind of don't include some of those portions. Therefore, Son of Man, prophesy and say to Gog, this is what the sovereign Lord says, in that day when my people, Israel, are living in safety, will you not take notice of it? So yeah, when they had secure, this is talking about the past, but if you talk about future, it's like their security has kind of been broken, so things are coming through. Of course, we can look at some of these. Every word like this is it means something too.
Right.
Oh, and see, it makes clear in the verse in between. In the far north, see, they're coming from the steppes of Eurasia. So verse 16, you will advance against my people, Israel, like a cloud that covers the land in days to come. Gog, I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me when I have proved holy through you before their eyes. And I'm going to look at the language here. So, Ami, okay, so the people it's an active form of the word people. Yishral, the upright, the who strives for God, kind of like a mujahideen. Okay, that's one thing. Hearts to be Batrit, Hemim. Okay, Goog. Okay, because I was looking at the Hugween. Yeah, no, it's not. That is a complete and total misrepresentation. It says Hugween, so therefore, the Goyim. Goyim is not a religious identification. I mean, it's a religious identification. It's not just something about foreigners. So you got to look out for them to soften the language, because you don't really know that they're trying to insult you for not being a Jew. This is what happened in the last day when Gog attacks the land of Israel. My hot anger will be aroused, declares the sovereign Lord. But see, the fire and the destruction and stuff is going to be on Israel. And you find out that elsewhere that it's being punished, but we're not terribly going, we're just, the power of myth here.
Right.
But either way, the point is, people are like, no, your Bible doesn't take the side of Israel. You haven't been paying attention. And it's definitely not saying, but any, because it was talking about the representatives and stuff. But so Ezekiel 39:1, Son of Man, prophesy against Gog and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says: I'm against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Okay. And I bet again it's Al Gug Adni Yahweh. So the Lord, the leader of the community, another way of translating that one. But again, if it says Yahweh, say Yahweh. If it says Adne, say Adni. It just doesn't make sense to me, this other way of treating it. And we have verse 6. I will send fire on Magog and on those who live in safety in the coastlands, and they will know that I am the Lord. I just want to check. Yeah, God is a verb and noun. And verse 11 to go through.
Okay.
On that day, I will give Gog a burial place in Israel, in the valley of those who travel in the east of the sea. I will block the way of the travelers, because Gog and all his hordes will be buried there, and will be called the valley of Hamon-Gog. And so, so merging of those two. But see, their graves aren't their own lands. Their graves are, But the thing that's happening is it's a whole new place, right?
Right.
You have the utter destruction of the land. Let me one last verse, 39:15. Was it 16? No, it's 15. Okay.
And 16.
Amona. Oh, the horde. Oh, the land will finally be cleansed after the horde. That's not terribly promising again. And they go through the land. Anyone who sees a human bone will leave a marker beside it until the gravediggers bury it in the valley of Hamon-Gog. And so the Orthodox, and this is linked to people say that this is like the talking about the hypocrites and stuff like this later in the Bibles, how that's bounced off of. But it definitely does not. Now let's I guess talk about the symbol that I put on this rock, and you put on your rock, and you can hold that up again here.
I still got to do some colors, and I got the outline, but my colors are going to be a bit different.
So this is, I guess, how it's supposed to be, and maybe it's one of the things I'll get more meaning to it later. But or the thing in the middle of the rectangular box kind of reminds me of some lunar stuff, some stuff that has to do with like spells involving women. Drawing out, you're reminded of that thing, that those bars that, like, when there's a voice and it's reading the voice from each side, and it also reminds me of that. It's like a tray or a fireplace thing or something, I don't know. So you got a couple peaks, you got the circle, and you got this square with the 3 dots from it, and that kind of reminds me of, so it's its typical 5-pointed star. And in ancient Egyptian, we'd probably say that's a combination between the word for it that's sometimes used for prayer, sometimes used for something astral or celestial or spiritual, and the onks, the life thing. And let me read. Feel free to share any further thought you can think of.
I see like lights on the ends of the triangle. The 3 points on the left and 3 points on the right are just like points of light.
Well, I use the silver and the gold paint as filler where I thought would be best for the filler, because see, silver for the round top thing, which can be thought of as a symbol of earth, and the mountains itself are pyramids or whatnot. You have there the spots in between the little circle things on the handle there, and in the middle of these star onks, or whatever you want to call it. And one of the thing, and multiple parts merged into one with the one stone. The thoughts and the sphere with that stone of compromise and things of seeing, as one might say with that. Let me. So you there's an unfolding, but the unfolding has markers. So the last line, immortality is not just a flower, but a purple jewel in the cardinal iron crown. I am, of course, partially thinking about, relating it to Capricorn, relating it to the iron crown and stuff of spiritual attainment, but it's, you know, you're doing things on a physical level too. But and you not the kingdom, because it's not, you know, that thing about striving, because that came up. Other verses we talk about the horn and other stuff about that can be related to the end times. But either a warrior in some sense, because, you know, it's not so difficult, but sometimes it's to work with what's there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's disperse what's there. But aside from clearing out and replacing with certain energies and that sort of thing, I don't do spiritual operations and then vanish when it's over. And that's
Right.
part of the reason why you have all these notes in my and some of my ceremonies that, oh yeah, half an hour later is when the thing went away, and there were some other things that I saw before things were over. And I try to relate some of this stuff, because it's not all being related, you know, read off in the dark in front of the camera, because you don't really, you know, it's so people can be led in what I'm saying, and sometimes I share my experience, but
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
in duty through static, you know, static is in it's not clear, but there's a message or whatever there. You know, the blood and flesh, of course, the sacrament, as it can be called, as people would recognize, oh, it's the sacrament meeting, and so therefore there's the representative blood and flesh. But it's about one's own. It's not about the represent. It's not about some vicarious savior thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about your own becoming and
Mm-hmm.
making it a physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been changes through the ages, and you can take the side of one group that's been overtaking another group or whatever, but you know, we're definitely in an international age. You know,
Yeah.
we can take advantage of our particular ancestry and our particular uh, nationality and that sort of stuff, but ultimately the spiritual paths are open for everybody. It's like there was an
Mm-hmm.
Odinistic cult, I guess you could call it, that in a city that I lived in for I don't know, half my life. Or at least at one point it was half my life. It's no longer half my life. I guess it's been long enough since I moved that it's no longer half my life. But at that place, there was this Odin cult that I had the opportunity to join. But one of the things was that just like the Black Muslims, they expect you to be prove you're part Negro, or prove you're part Native American at the very least to be a member. They also, it's like there was no doubt that I had Germanic. People could just see that I had Germanic and Norse and whatnot ancestry. So some place where you do Norse slash Germanic rituals, they actually had a church like a building. It was this sort of nave, sort of German Norwegian sort of style building. And it sort of stood out versus the rest of the place. But you know, you had to be a particular um, ancestry to join, and that was now things are not closed off like that. And sometimes you open, it's like it's not, you know, just like one of the things that I'm pointing out in the lecture series that I'm doing. One of the things is you don't it's not about your own personal cult. It's not about per se joy, whatever. You're going to experience more of the sensual, fruitive side or whatever if you step beyond that. But you can
Mm-hmm.
you work on your own identity, and you know,
Yeah.
on one side things are being taken away, and other things are being added, and but there's an opening. But the opening goes beyond one's imagination, at least in moments, and definitely in death, and the red integration, the reintegration, whatever you want to call it. Very similar words, but there's implications to each.
Mm-hmm.
And certain individuals, of course, in the order of nine angles, and most groups that connect to that You're going to have the idea of Vindex, or call it the Antichrist or whatever, but are just something called the Antichrist. Because like if you look at the like I pointed out in my one video, if you look at the Christian Jesus, I understand why people say Jesus was a Satanist and a black magician, and you can sort of make the point stronger than you could saying that he was a Christian, because every time somebody's gonna try to treat him like a literal son of God, he's like correcting them, doing the exorcism or chasing them away, and whatever it is. And Christianity's very explicitly condemned by the Jesus figure in the Bible. I know the Jesus figure is like at least 4 different people, but and so pseudonyms, you definitely you want to get into roles. You kind of know what that is from your actual self, whatever. And in a way, your names or formulas that you can use. Lon Milo Duquette was like, his father was like, don't change your name, because it's very important. So LMD, he's the the letter L. So he's specifically given a name with meaning. And to those that aren't of the spiritual bent, are ultra or conservative or whatever, that they can't make their direct things, things are going to seem foreign, even if they're the same tradition. I've seen that. It's like it's like some of the Muslims will look at one's book and say, it's like they pay attention to one hadith book and the other group pays attention to another hadith book. They're basically the same, but there are some additional things that were said or something. So somebody says one supplication or one incantation or whatever at a particular time, and they're like, oh, this is like completely innovated. It's like, it's not even part of the religion. And it's like, it is, but it's just in a different history book than your history book, right? So you see stuff like that going on. But at the very least, if you have your own direct experience, your own direct understanding, this seems like something weird and different to people. And life is a quest for the attaining. It's about one's becoming. And so either you're, riling yourself up or calming yourself down or bringing yourself away from something, you're disassociating. And that's how you have a revival, and that happens within yourself. And Imbolc, Hughes milk, is the cosmic dawn, so the dawn of the year. So a breakdown and a building up, you sort of as a tower card. I know these aren't the cards that I took at the seasonal point. And again, like I said before, it's not about your ancestry. It's not about your nationality. Every gender's available, so disconnected parts reach every him and her. So not everybody has the whole picture, but we work with what we are getting. And there's not more than an art, so there's a science to it. And it's not just defending ourselves. It's there's active preemptive things that might need to be done. And there's some harsh language. An eclipse, I threw in the idea of an eclipse because I feel like there's going to be some eclipse related stuff, or stuff related to an eclipse. At least astrologers bringing up energy, right? And so some things are disturbed, some things are undisturbed, but some things are undisturbed because they need to be brought up. And undisturbed could be references kept pure. They could be just things forgotten. And I think it's important to try to make discoveries in text. And there's stuff in museums and stuff like this that's not general public knowledge. And sometimes if you bring it out, you translate it, and it's like, oh, there's this whole other mythological reference. But it's a focus on what is, rather than just a reactionary splendor. Like, for example, the idea of orthodox. You're aware that orthodox is usually not the first run of any spiritual tradition. It's like usually a reactionary stuff's going on, and they're like, okay, let's make an official rightly believing group. And that's this is about. So one of the things is because of balance is not you can say we start on a balance, but we're kind of shaken from it at times.
Yeah.
So I'm just re-going
Definitely.
over things here. And just like one seasonal that I did regarding a group that before I decided more of how I was going to arrange how to do my seasonals. The warming quarter starts with something tantra, the cooling quarter with something yoga. The one group I saw their sigils showed up in the sky. So the Lilith Society one, that symbol showed up in the sky, and that was I don't really feel at this time like there's any more big workups that I'm going to do with that. Some stuff I'm going to do over and over again, sort of by myself or whatever, but not that. But the point is that I may experience something with this sigil, just like my sigil for the the eclipse of the sun. The eclipse of the sun, I saw that symbol, and that one symbol became, my ritual operation thing. But it showed up in the middle of the ritual, and I was like, no, it's like I'm paying attention to stuff. I'm just ritualizing the moment of the total eclipse. I would have had more things if there wasn't interruption. It's like, no, I'm aware of what's going on. Even the partial solar eclipse earlier in the year that I decided to do this thing, it's like the sharpening of the shadows, and it just feels different. So just like in the lecture that I plan to record and release in the next couple months, is one of the things that I say there is, it does matter and it doesn't matter at the same time. Like if for some reason, like you do your seasonal, like the day after or something, I don't recommend doing it when the Christians do their thing. They've done it like the Sunday before or a week before or something like that with their cross quarters, or a couple days after with St. John's Day or something. I don't recommend doing that because there's that association with whatever. But if you do things like the day after or break things up into a different portions, that's whatever. But ideally, there's things to work with. Like it just doesn't make sense to me, people doing eclipse rituals the day after the eclipse or something like that. But in a way, it doesn't make sense. But the seasonals are usually like there's a few days or whatever. So I think, or 5 days or whatever. So I think one of the things is they knew the weather might not be good, and so yeah, it's too stormy today. Let's do it tomorrow. So I think the ancients kind of did work that in. I just do things inside, and that's part of the reason why I developed the temple, is I can do these operations inside, and longer operations inside anytime that I want. And you're trying to go with the flow, you're trying to direct the flow, you're trying to work it out, but it's done for oneself.
Right.
And you meet things along the way, both physically incarnated individuals and others, whether one's aware of that or not, that kind of join you in the rituals. It might be something as simple as like a shadow that wouldn't be there if you follow the light and stuff like this, or something that you see, or but whatever. But that there's things that let you join their company if you kind of get their attention.
Yeah. It's like before, I felt as if I was allowed to watch. So that was a really neat experience, just to know that I was allowed to watch, and that was yeah.
And so you can in a way you can look at this thing here as, so the stone